Hi everyone, welcome to a Empire Units tier list video. Today I'm going to go over pretty much all of the mid of the Empire unit roster. I'm excluding a couple of unique units like the amethyst units, lords and the heroes. I would kind of just want to look at the individual units themselves. This is my opinion how I use them, so it's going to be probably slightly different than what most people do or some people do. And of course, if you have a different agreement than where I put these guys, let me not don't know. Let me know in the comments below or fight me. The way the rating system is gonna go, we're gonna have E tier be like don't recruit. D tier pretty much means that they're not very good at what they're supposed to do. They hit below their weight class. C tier, they do exactly what they need to do, but they can't really do anything else. Like frontline infantry is good at holding the front line, not really doing anything. B tier means they'll hit above their weight class, they'll outperform of what they're kind of supposed to do. A tier is pretty much might want to have these units in your army. They're pretty good. S tier will be doom stackable. Kind of a quick note here. The thing about the Empire in particular is that they are a jack of all trades faction. They are very good at combined arms, and really, there's not a whole lot of units that really outshine everybody, especially in like the infantry department. Their damage mostly comes from range or artillery. I wish their infantry was better, but oh well. But yeah, so this roster is going to include Regiment of Renown, normal units, as well as their state guards, statemen, whatever, state units, state troops, whatever. But and I also do have the game open, so kind of comparing some units side by side. Because there's a lot of units in this roster that I really don't use for good reason. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get this started real quick. So the first unit that you're gonna run across and recruit is just spearmen with no shields. Uh, just basic infantry. They do have a bonus versus large, but I don't think they're particularly good. They're tier 0 recruitment, so you need an army, you can spit them out. But I don't think they're very good at holding a front line or fighting large entities. They struggle against our tier zeros. They don't win battles for you. I mean, they don't. I don't even trust in the whole front lines because they don't even have a shield either. So if you're facing our faction that happens to have range, they're gonna get kind of melted. And that's why I'm gonna put the spearmen with shields at C tier. They do exactly what they need to do. They hold the front line fairly well, even to like mid to late game. They got the bonus versus large. They kind of struggle against some large entities, but they do okay against the Cav. Um, Definitely, I would. They just do a good job. They do what they need to do. They don't hit above their weight class though. They struggle against units at similar tiers, but their job is just trying to hold the front line. They do a good job there. Well, with swordsmen, they do have a shield. I also consider them to be D tier. Their whole shtick is they're front line, and they're supposed to be a little better at fighting than the spearmen. But I still see them struggle once again against units of similar tier or even tier lower. Uh, like they're good against zombies. That's pretty much it. I'm doing some recording, Custis. I'm sorry. I'm doing some recording. Unless I could bring him in here to talk to Empire units too. That would be funny. Uh, okay, so the next unit is gonna be the Spearman Renown unit, and they're called the Grundle's Defenders, and they're a regiment renowned, so they're gonna just have better stats overall because you're gonna recruit this unit at tier 9. They do have Rear Guardian, which is just physical resistance for artillery or machines. And they also get immune to psychology. I mean, I think they're an okay emergency unit. Oops. So I'm gonna kind of put them at C tier too because they just kind of prefer. They do the same exact thing, just slightly better. Uh, uh, Empire with halberds. I would put these guys at a higher tier, except I did some recent testing where I was pairing these guys against Cav and against other Hellbeard type units, and they kind of lost almost every battle. So these guys are they don't really hold the front line because once again they don't have a shield. They do have decent armor piercing, decent morale, but I almost would put like I said, these guys are kind of a high C tier, maybe a low B tier depending how you use them. I consider them kind of a specialties unit, so I will only really have 1 to 2 of these units in my army anyways. Now the flagellants are kind of a funky unit. They are unbreakable, no armor, just kind of a crazy unit. I definitely think they hit above their weight class more often than not. I'm actually surprised by how well these guys perform. Unarmored, uh, they don't. They're unbreakable, and I actually believe they have frenzy on them as well. They have frenzy as well as strength of the pennant, which means that they're losing. They're gonna fight better. I wouldn't use these guys in the front line. Once again, they don't have shields at all. They don't really have high armor or even high melee defense. But like you throw these guys into a mosh pit, and they're gonna have fun. Great swords. Once again, I'm gonna put these guys in C tier. Because it kind of fall in the problem with the Halberds where they do their job, but they really don't go above and beyond. Like they'll struggle against like Black Orcs or against like Warriors of Chaos. They'll win against Warriors of Chaos, but not without taking losses of their own. Uh, they will shred infantry pretty well, but they're also not a frontline unit. So they're kind of a specialty unit. They're like if you need some good armor piercing anti infantry, they're there. If you need armor piercing anti large, you got your Halberds to fill that. Now Sigmar's Sons, which is the Regiment of Renown variant of the Swordsmen, they are very good actually. They are unbreakable, and of course since they're a Regiment of Renown unit, they also get better stats overall. Which unbreakable is such a good trait in this game. Honestly, I would argue putting these guys in B tier or even in A tier because they outperform what they do. Surprisingly, no, it's pretty much because of that unbreakable status though. If these guys didn't have unbreakable, I would say put them at D tier once again. Like because unbreakable makes any unit good. Look at the Kislev faction. They're trash units with them with the 15 seconds unbreakable status is amazing. Now the Flagellants Regiment Renown, which is right here, they don't really have a difference. Pretty much just more entities, more health, and obviously better stats because they are a Regiment Renown. So I would put those guys kind of at the same exact tier. I mean, I don't use them too often because I feel like just using regular Flagellants is just better and cheaper. Now onto the Cav. If you guys watched my streams or in my past videos, you know I don't like Empire Cav. Generally, like 90% of the Cav I actually do not like. I would put these guys at D tier. You can get the Cav kind of early, but the problem is Empire Knights are considered a shock Cav, but they're super slow and sluggish, and they get stuck in combat a lot. Now, on a side note, they are extremely tanky and have pretty decent health, even when compared to like Bretonnian Knights. But it's just the fact that a shock Cav, they move really slow, and it gets stuck. It doesn't make them that well. Like early game, they're okay, and that's me really pushing it. They're okay. Now with the Reichsguard, they kind of suffer the same exact problem, except they have way better stats overall and a 2-turn recruitment. But I would say one Reichsguard outperforms 2 Empire Knights pretty well, just because they got way better stats in the long run. But I don't think they outperform their job either. They get stuck a lot, they're gonna suffer for it, you know. Now the Knights, now the Knights of the Black Rose, on the other hand, are a melee cav, and they have the same tankiness as the Empire Knights, but they got the anti-infantry and they're melee cav, so they're gonna just perform a lot better. I think these guys hit above their weight class, and honestly, I think you should actually keep some of these units in your army. I would have also suffer 2-turn recruitment, but they are worth it. Now with the Knights of the Blazing Sun, they have a little better stats than like your Empire Cav. They have less melee defense, and they have fire attacks, so they're kind of good against the undead. But that's kind of the only good thing against it. Like I said, they kind of suffer the same problems as the Empire Knights, but they have more of a specialist role. So I'm gonna put them at C tier because uh, flaming attack is always good against like a Nurgle or Empire or a vampire faction, but a lot of units have that flame resistance. But like if you need to recruit them for a special role, they can perform that. I don't think they hit above their weight class because they just suffer all the problems of Empire Knights. Now Scyther's Reichsguard, Regiment Renown units, you get the instant recruitment. You do get Vanguard deploy and immune psychology, which is really good. No improvements for Cav still at this point. But the Vanguard deploy is very good, and I think that makes them hit above their weight class because now they can properly attack artillery or their archer backline, and since they're so tanky, if they get caught into it, they can kind of fend themselves off a little bit better because they do have those better stats of Reichsguard. But since they're slow, they're going to be kind of stuck and isolated. That Vanguard deployment definitely makes them better. Now, the Griffins, I definitely think they hit above their class and then some. Just these guys have, I believe, a 4-turn recruitment, unless they changed that recently. Still, that's kind of the problem. I don't think you should doomstack these guys because they have small entities or small number of entities. But they're just a lot better. The funny thing is, these guys are only let me look at only 3 speeds slower than Empire Knights, which I find amusing. But they cause fear as well. They got AP, just an improvement in stats overall. Let me click on this. Improvement in stats overall. So yes, I would put them in kind of A tier. If when you get to a point to recruit them over your Cav. And I'm gonna kind of do that with the great weapons as well. I feel like the anti-infantry armor piercing and the anti-large armor piercing really complement each other well. You get the way I play with the demogryph. I think I could say gryphs before demogryphs. Is I keep these guys together. These guys are very good at supporting each other, and you get the Royal Outdoor Gryph Knights, which have the glorious charge, which doubles their charge bonus pretty much. So these guys are even better, but the way I just play them is just kind of keep them all together. And once again, these guys are a regiment round, so you can instant recruit these guys, and they will have better stats overall. Put them at A tier as well. Now, the archers. They're just basic archers, they're not really good against armor piercing. They're not very good, but I believe they're an instant recruit like spearmen. And you can actually kind of build an army of these guys, since range units generally do better in Warhammer. Monstrous units and range units generally are better. I'm gonna kind of put them in C tier. They do exactly what they need to do, and they're pretty okay at it. They're not things special. Now the militiamen, I absolutely love using militiamen because they are a combat focused unit with a pistol. So very short range, not a whole lot of damage, but they get Vanguard deploy and firing while moving. Now they're weak against armor, but I actually say these guys are a halfway decent frontline unit if you're using a gunpowder only army. I think they outperform their jobs a little bit, but not by much. I think they're probably a low B tier, a high C tier. But I do have a preference of using these guys over swordsmen or even spearmen in some cases. Now with crossbowmen, once again they just do their job, nothing special. Have standard range for crossbowmen. I don't think they'll necessarily win you battles, but you could also stack these guys. So, nothing special. Now the regiment renowned variant of the archers They get Vanguard deploying Snipe, which they'll hide while firing. I don't think that's really good because, at least my experience with the AI, and I actually think they Vanguard deployed too. I forgot to mention that. They kind of just bind their units instantly when they're shooting. So I think they're actually kind of a relatively weak renown unit, especially since you recruit the guys at tier 1. I mean, they have slightly better stats, but they're a little bit more expensive, and honestly, just get regular spear archers. I mean, if these guys have better like melee stats, I would consider using them for Vanguard deploy, but especially you can only get one of them too. Now handgunners, pretty much the Empire's ranged armor piercing, they do a pretty good job. You could build an army with these guys. Problem is they struggle against faster factions and they don't really have good combat stats, so they definitely need support. Pairing like handgunners up with spearmen is like a pretty good army build. Like just using these two units will pretty much win you most auto resolves because auto resolve favors range. And the huntsmen, which are pretty much archers that are anti-large for their missiles. I don't use these guys too often because usually by this point I have my handgunners or I have other anti-large options. But they do their job though. They're not bad, they're just borderline. Now Sterling's Revenge, right? Actually, let me check here. Yeah, Sterling Revenge, which is the Regiment Renowned Free Company Militia. Let me put you here. Vanguard deploy, immune psychology, firewall moving, and just kind of better stats overall. And I actually get AP missiles, so that's really nice. Kind of, they do just the same thing, just a better job. So I'm gonna put them at B tier. They hit above their weight class easily. And then the Regiment Renown, the handgunner Silver Bullets have magic ammunition, and missile strength is still armor piercing. They do get kind of better stats overall because of the Regiment Renown, and as well as they get stock. Now, they have magical ammunition, which is okay. I don't think that. I think that will kind of constitute them hitting a little bit above their weight class, especially when they go against stuff that has like a lot of physical resistance. But I have a specialty unit. I don't use this unit too often. Now, Null Ironsides. Probably my favorite unit in the Empire at this point. So obviously they're probably gonna go to A tier. I would put them in S tier, but problem is they, they can't beat every army out there, and that's why I consider S tiers. S tier can beat everything out there. The reason why I put these guys in A tier because at this point, if you get Null Ironsides, you should not recruit any other range units unless you're in like a bad territory where you need arcing shots. These guys are fairly decent melee combatants. Obviously, they still got the armored piercing attacks, and they got back power discipline, which makes them more accurate and shoot faster when they're not moving. Just 10 times better than the handgunners themselves. Just better stats overall. I would honestly do 2 lines of these guys, and that's all you need. If you want to run a gunpowder campaign, a gunpowder campaign, that's who to use. Hawkland long rifles. I actually could kind of put these guys at B tier because they can hit. They're basically the snipers. They can hit above their weight class a little bit because they have a high range, good armor piercing attacks. They got snipe, which the AI can find instantly. But the reason why I put these guys at B tier, not C tier, is that they're very good at Lord sniping as well. Cav sniping, like pretty much anything direct line of sight with these guys will do work. I wouldn't recruit more than like 3 in an army. You can, I've seen it done before, but then you just run into issues where you can't really balance with the rest of your army. Now the Regiment of Renowned Huntsmen, however, they have Vanguard deploying, immune to psychology, firewall, moving stalk, and woodsman. So these guys are just kind of the woodsman, but just better, and they also got encourage as well. I don't know if I would really use these guys. Once again, I don't really use the huntsman. It's just kind of my preference. I would probably just put them here. And it's like, once again, once you're using these huntsmen, use your iron sides or use your snipers. Now the regiment of renowned, the Jaeger Corps, they got Shield Breaker, which is missile block chance minus 24, as well as Black Powder Discipline, which these guys did not have before. So pretty much when they're not moving, they shoot faster and more accurately, which for a sniper unit, you want them to be more accurate, of course. So and the Shield Breaker is very nice. So now these guys are pretty much going to be melting frontline units. The only problem is you can only get one of them. But with that, I definitely think it's good to have this unit, have at least one of these units in your army if you can. Like if you're fighting dwarves as an empire, for instance, these guys are gonna make decent work in like Ironbreakers. Now Pistoliers, one of my favorite units in the Empire roster. I think they actually hit above their weight class, and I would honestly say they're pretty good pretty much throughout your campaign. I'm kind of biased towards them because I find them, even though they don't have any armor piercing, they have fire while moving and vanguard deploy, and have fairly decent speed. They do kind of like if bats get to them, they can kind of struggle. But like if you keep like two of these units by each other, they can support each other fairly well. They're very good at lord sniping, even though they don't have the AP. That's completely fine. Same thing with the outriders. The outriders before they got buffed were really really bad. These guys had no ammunition. They only fired once, and I believe they were slower too. They just had bad stats. But since the update for them, which was a while back, they now have like they shoot like 6 shots in one volley each entity, as well as they get like proper ammunition now. These guys do have armor piercing attacks. However, they are less accurate, so they're not as good as lord sniping. But one way to use these guys is when the two front lines are fighting each other. If these guys are uncontested, line these guys up in a row against the enemy's backline, and they'll just demolish anything. They are very good to have. Using these two guys in tangents, I would say, is almost a doom stack in itself. But an army of Felbats can kind of take. Now war wagons. I like my war wagons, but they don't perform all that well. They are very, very slow. Uh, they're faster than infantry units, I suppose, but they don't have that great of melee stats. But their missile damage is pretty good. Their range is pretty good. It's just the problem is once they get caught into combat, they're kind of screwed. Very slow. They need an escort. If you want to use war wagons, you're gonna have to give them an escort because they can perform well. It's just they're not. Their stats kind of just don't reflect that for melee combat. Their melee combat was a little higher. I would say you probably want a war wagon in your army. Now the grenade launchers for the outriders, I actually don't really like, which is weird. I like things that explode, and I love my outriders, but these guys kind of fill a niche role, which is anti-infantry, and they do a very good job of that. Problem is, they don't care if you're a friend or a foe, so they have a tendency to friendly fire a lot. But I'm gonna put these guys at C tier because they are very good at melting infantry armies. It's just they don't care who's in the way though. Just kind of keep in mind that. Now the war wagon with the mortar, I would say is they're pretty good. They hit above their class. They're better. They're same stats as mortar, except they're more mobile, which is really really nice. And they do have a little bit better stats as a crew for fighting. But I also don't think you should really put them in an army if you don't want them. But they're a good option to have. If you still want to run mortars late game, I would get these guys. Um, the next one is uh, the Black Lions War Wagon with Hellblasters. So it's pretty much AP. They get better volleys and better stats, instant recruitment. They do get like half ammo. That is a kind of thing to look at. They do get half the ammo, but they definitely perform their jobs better. So I would probably put them as C tier. They're a good emergency unit to have, but they're not necessary. Mortars, C tier. They do exactly what they need to. Pretty good early game, pretty good mid game. But once the enemies start using like monstrous units or fast movers or cav, that's kind of where they start to suffer when the factions start moving away from their uh, spams of trash. Cannons are kind of the same thing. Cannons are really good at cav. Accuracy isn't quite there, so they'll kind of hit their cav targets pretty good. They'll hit their infantry targets pretty good, but you know, they do what they need to do. They do their job okay, pretty well. Now the volley guns, the Hellblaster volley guns, which are right here. They do have a little. Actually, they have more missile strength, just less damage per shot, I believe. A little less range, but they just shoot a lot more, and they really don't care what's in front of them. They'll kind of, you can kind of make a stack of them, so I think they can kind of hit above their weight class, maybe even put them in A tier. It's kind of arguable. Now the Regiment Renown cannons, they have magical ammunition and physical resistance, which is always good. You know, give them some more survivability. The magical ammunition is nice because when you start finding those monsters that have better physical resistances, or even the lords on their giant mounts, these guys will make a lot better work on them. So I'm gonna put on B tier because this guy can kind of start lord sniping when the lords are on their bigger mounts. Now the Hellblasters, I love and hate them. The Hellblasters, I probably would be a high B tier, maybe a low A tier. Uh, I'm gonna put him at A tier. I think you should always have a Hellblaster at least in your army, at least one in your army. The only problem is there's always one rocket that likes to smack your infantry line, no matter where they are. They could be directly behind them and still somehow get hit. But when you get a swarm of these, like 3 or 4 of them, they can kind of mess up an army pretty well. They're an artillery piece and they're going to need an escort. That's why they're kind of not in S tier for that reason. Now, the Luminarch, if I'm saying that name right, absolutely trash. I hate this unit. Does high damage, high range, has magical and fire attacks, as well as a damage resistance plus 10% if you have certain ones of magic and minus power recharge. It's just the problem is, I feel like these guys never hit their shots for me. Like, they don't perform well for me. And I don't know if they perform well for anybody else. But just get, like, some more Hippogriff Knights or something. Like, they're just not good at their job. Now, the next unit is the Sunmaker Hellstorm Rocket Battery, which is the non-version. And they got flaming ammunition. That's pretty much the only difference. They got flaming ammunition as well as a lot higher missile strength, but a lot less ammo as well. As you can see, that's minus 14, so they only have 8 volleys. So it's like, I would kind of put these guys at D tier, just because they don't have as many volleys and they do fire attacks, which could benefit you, could not benefit you. If they had the same ammunition as the regular Hellstorm rocket batteries, I would probably put them at B tier, but just not good. Luminarch Hash, if I'm saying that right, junk. They're the same unit. I guess one has instant recruitment. They have a net that stops people moving, I guess. That's about it. That really doesn't do anything else. It's just as bad. Landship. Such a fun unit. Honestly, I would put these at B tier. Because they're a really big target, they're a really slow target, but they kind of do a pretty good job. They're basically like a gunship that's on the ground. They're the Dwarven version of their gunship. They got really good stats overall. Problem is their melee attack, melee defense are kind of low. They're kind of slow, and they're a big target. They do explode when they die, though, which is kind of nice. And they're also unbreakable. You know what? No, yeah, they're at B tier. I definitely think they hit above their weight class. Just problem is, if the enemy has artillery or heroes, they're gonna target this thing, and it's gonna die kind of fast. So it's I could see how people would put this in A tier, but personally for me, B tier. Though they kind of should be at. Now steam tanks, S tier. Need I say more? Steam tanks are scary. The AI will doomstack these, and most of the time there's nothing you can do about it. They are armored, armor piercing, causes terror, and unbreakable. Uh, they're slow. They got directional missile block shields, so like artillery they can glance off depending where they are. Uh, yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, their melee attack, melee defense are kind of meh on the low side, but they're really fast, so they can just push people out of the way and get out of combat. Uh, the same thing with this. The thing's also really fat as well, but it's a giant target. Where at least when the steam tank's in combat, it's gonna be hard for artillery pieces or archers to hit them because they're not that much bigger. They are big, but they're like slightly bigger than a horse. Like I would say, like a minotaur is bigger than was. The volley guns, same thing. Only difference is they take the big cannon out and they stick 3 smaller cannons in them. They do the job well. Uh, Pretty much the only difference is they lose some range, but they gain a lot more firepower. They get the same stats overall. Next is the Landship Renown. The only difference is I don't use this faction actually. The Wonder of the Age Landship too often, but they do got Encourage, which is always nice to have. They get that leadership bonus, but they don't really anything special. They get a little bit better stats, but that's just because they're a renowned unit. Honestly, I would put these guys right next to the other landships. Now on to the state troops. Hopefully I have all the state troops. The first one is we're ignoring all heroes because they are faction unique, and is the Swords of Ulrich, and they are just basic swordsmen. Only differences they have frenzy, and as well as they actually do have slightly better stats for a state troop. So honestly, with the frenzy, I would actually put these guys at C tier. I would put these guys just perform their jobs really well. They are meant to fight on the front lines, and they do a good job with it. Now on to the next state trooper, which is Eldritch Guard, which they got Encourage, and they got better shields compared to the regular variant of Spearmen. So, as well as I think they got Encourage as well on them, which is nice. Encourage, definitely nice to have for a frontline unit, and they got way better shields. So, with that being said, I think they'll actually hit above their weight class because now they got higher leadership as well as better shields, so they're a better frontline unit. Now, the Mariners are actually a lot better than the regular Halberdiers. They get the Rowdy status, which is leadership +4, and Perfect Vigor, which is very nice to have. Perfect Vigor is equal to me in Frenzy, but Unbreakable is still better. But just way better stats overall. And honestly, if these guys had shields, these guys would probably be like A tier. They definitely outperform their job pretty well because of it. And I'm willing to put them at B tier, almost at A tier. Now, the Kerber Great Swords. These guys are really good, and you could I would say you could do a stack with these guys because they have the magical aura, which is bathed in blood, which is melee attack +5, leadership +4, as well as they are unbreakable. And since they're anti-infantry and armor piercing, they'll chew through everything, and since they're unbreakable, they don't really care what's in front of them. And yeah, that's pretty much the only stat chains they have, though. They don't have any better stats. So honestly, I would say you can doom stack with these guys. I've been pretty successful just making armies out of them. It's just the problem is getting to that point of making an army because state troops are kind of hard to get at a certain point in the campaign unless you have enough of the currency to keep refreshing their timers. Next is the river patrolmen, and the only differences between the crossbowmen and these guys is pretty much they get fire ammunition as well as suppressed to -30% speed and vanguard deploy. Now, once again, fire attacks are really amped, but the fact that they get a -30% speed debuff as well as vanguard deploy, I think can definitely hit above their weight class. I almost would argue that they would be in A tier because of that reason, because you could build an army of these guys, but it just takes a long time. Just Kerber Great Swords just take the cake. they're a minute to fight. The next one is the Gunderman Surefires. They're a handgun variant, and pretty much the only difference is they got way better stats as well as Vanguard deploy on them as well. Decent melee combat, so they can kind of fight the front lines, but you got no iron sides that can do that as well. But the overall buff to the stats, I would say, makes them B tier because now they can kind of hold their own a little better. Next one is the knight, the kind of all the different knights we got going. So once again, ignoring the amethyst iron side because that's only faction specific. We got the Knights of the Everlasting Light, and kind of the only difference is they get better shields, they have magical attacks, and they got Blinding Radiance, which is -8 melee attack for all people in range. Once again, as Empire Knights, they kind of suffer the same fate. I would argue they're actually a little better just because of the buffs they get, the magical attacks, as well as the -8 melee attack, which means that they can fight a little better. If they get stuck in combat, they won't die nearly as fast, but they're still really slow. They're still really slow with the cav. Next is the Knights of More. Knights of More here. Boop. Better shields. I think these guys just have more armor and Stern Resolve, which means psychology. That's about it. I mean, they get better shields, but kind of just gonna put them with the Empire Knights. I mean, 10% armor, even though they're already heavy armored, I don't think makes that great of a difference. Stubborn Bulls. They are basically the equivalent of questing Knights of Bretonnia. They're pretty much Empire Knights with great swords. They're mounted great swords. They have way less of a charge bonus, but they're a melee cav, so they got higher melee attack, higher melee defense, way higher weapon strength. That is AP, as well as 10 more leadership off the bat. I would actually because these guys are slow, it doesn't really matter because they want to fight and they want to stay fighting. So honestly, I would kind of put these guys at A tier because I think they hit above their weight class. I've seen this unit just outperform way above what they're supposed to do. Because late game, armor piercing is king. Magic and armor piercing is king. Next is the Pistoliers state troops, who are called the Noble Sons. And let me bring these. And pretty much they just got better stats overall. They do have extra reload, which replenishes ammunition once for them, which charges went below 80%, so they're gonna fire like 2 or 3 volleys and then get that. Vanguard deploy, fire while moving. Pretty much just Pistoliers, but they gave them drugs. Which, once again, I love my Pistolier unit. I would argue you could doom stack these guys, but I don't think they perform as well as the Greatsword. The Greatswords are pretty much the baseline infantry unit that just don't have shields. Next is the Suitons Mortars. Pretty much the only thing that makes them a little special is they have a little bit higher missile strength, magical flaming attack, or flaming ammunition, and no friendly fire, which is really good, but honestly, I don't think the Moors really friendly fire for me. But the fact that they have missiles, I definitely think you should have like them in your armies. The magic attack, I know it's flaming, but magic attack, it's gonna chew through everything. It's a mortar. Next is the Bordermen, which are outlier with grenade launchers. No really difference, except they just have a lot higher health, which is kind of weird. They got the same stats, just have 1,000 more health, as well as AP. I guess, which it's I like you said, I kind of have mixed feelings with these guys, but I guess the fact that they got AP makes them hit a little harder above their weight class. Just kind of barely though. I don't really use these guys unless I need them for my emergency armies. And of course, Emperor's Wrath, which is just a scary steam tank. Let me this is just a regular one with the cannon. Has -10 missile strength, which is weird, but it will self-destruct when it's dead. It has emergency vent, which is an AoE ability that it can use every minute, which is actually really good. As well as it has burnt, which is minus leadership, AP, weapon strength is AP, and bonus infantry as well. So just a kind of a scary unit, I would say. But yeah, it's a tank, so it's a doom stackable. Oop, oh, shoot. And yeah, that's pretty much the Empire units tier list. Uh, like I said, a lot of units are C tier, a lot of units are B tier, but you gotta remember this faction is a combined arm. So if you use these units together, they're gonna perform really, really well. The outliers are pretty much your top tier units, your top artillery, your top cav, your top range. No infantry in here because infantry kind of junk. The S tier is obviously your tanks and your Airberg Greatsword. Oop. Like I said, you could probably doom stack with outriders or your Pistoliers, but they're just going to struggle a lot more. There's some units that can kind of cross the threshold a little bit in other areas, but overall, this is pretty much how I Empire units. Uh, Not a whole lot of junky ones. They just job. And they do it okay. That they're jack of all trades, master of none. If you guys want to see more content like this, let me know. This was kind of fun to make. Of course, leave a like and subscribe for notification when I go live, upload video to any other shenanigans on YouTube. And of course, the subscribe button to actually get notified sending the shenanigans on YouTube. And leave comments on how you think about this tier list below, because I'm just kind of curious how you guys think. Like I said, I favorite Gunpire. Let me know if, hey, you're using Night Strong and tell me why. Or fight me. Because I will. or tell me how the Luminarchs are actually good, please. But yep. Bye.